Lisa Babin. She's Executive Director of Public Affairs, Communications, and Development for LSU Health Shreveport. And we have to talk about Dr. Ghali had a gathering with the media last week. I'm sorry we could not be there. And he made some comments that a lot of people were like, whoa, this is kind of big. In fact, one was closing the trauma center. That LSU Med School is facing some really serious problems. You put this all together. What was his intent, and did he go too far?
His intent was to be very upfront and transparent with all the local media back during the negotiations of the MOU in the fall when there was so much flying around. We were asked as an institution to lie low, and we absolutely did that and understood that during negotiations that was very appropriate. But at my request as the new communications director, I asked Dr. Ghali, would you spend some time with the media before we get into budget cuts, before we get into the legislative session? Let's help the media really understand where we are and what is going on. And so that's what we did. He put together a very thoughtful and thorough presentation. And unfortunately, as frequently happens, some things were taken out of context. So when, questions came up, what's going to happen when the budget cut comes? Because we all know it's coming. It's just how big is it going to be? He explained that he's worked diligently, he and the team and all the employees, to be as efficient as possible. But at some point in time, if you continue to get cut, there will be a cut to services. And he gave one of our most valuable assets in the trauma unit. He said, we don't want this thing to go so far that we would perhaps have to see something like the trauma unit or the St. Jude's Clinic. And he gave several examples, the sickle cell clinic, of specialized areas that we're very fortunate to have in this area. And unfortunately, that comment got excerpted as saying, Dr. Ghali says we're closing the trauma center. He never said that. In fact, he's on record with one of the media outlets of saying we would do everything, go to great lengths not to lose that asset. Because
So in a nutshell, Dr. Ghali's remarks about the financial situation of the medical school were misinterpreted?
Yes, I would say they were misinterpreted. And
but isn't the med school in jeopardy, though? I mean, aren't there? Do we have some issues that if we don't address, we've got a problem?
We do have some issues, and those are being addressed. And he went into great length to share the steps that are being taken. But by the same token, I kind of liken this. If somebody says, you know what, I'm getting close to losing my house, you don't wait till you get down to that last payment before it's repossessed. And so I really applaud Dr. Ghali for his transparency in saying, hey, we got to keep a close eye on that. That's my job to do that. So I want to let you know I'm doing that. The threshold for keeping accreditation is at this level. Here's where we are. So it was not an alarmist. It was really a very fact-based discussion. And I think because people know how important this is, it was kind of an oh my gosh moment, because there really hasn't been a lot of frank discussion about what's at stake here.
Why are we starting to lose the house?
Because we've had to completely redo our financial model. And that's really one of the points I want to get across as when we talk about the challenges of privatization, when Bobby Jindal said, hey, we're getting out of the business of having public state hospitals. We're going to privatize this hospital. We lost what had been the revenue stream of our 3 professional schools for the entirety of their existence. There had always, been a hospital. And so now we no longer control that. So for decades, we had taken the $25 to $30 million shortfall from what you get from tuition and other small income streams to help cover that cost. I mean, professional schools, it takes more than tuition for a medical school, School of Allied Health, and graduate studies to cover those costs. So once we were in control of that, now we are no longer in control of that.
What is Dr. Ghali's relationship, or for that matter, most of the staff at the medical school with biomedical research? What is the opinion of their ability to run a medical school?
Our opinion is it's a challenging situation. It's kind of like an arranged marriage, but everybody is working in good faith. So is it challenging? Yes. But is everybody, and that's a directive from Dr. Ghali, I meet on an ongoing basis with their marketing staff, where there are opportunities to co-brand programs. We're doing that. So, but it doesn't mean it's not challenging. But is there absolutely every effort being made to make it work? Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am, it is.
We had State Representative Cedric Glover in last week, and he made a few accusations that we will get to that I know you want to address, but one that I sort of, based on his accusations, I sort of put forth the following scenario. That Dr. Ghali's get-together last week, where all the media was there and he painted a rather dire picture for the future of the medical school. And he sort of implied that this was all sort of some sort of Willis Knighton orchestrated Machiavellian puppet master thing. Anything to that?
Absolutely not. And it's why I reached out to Erin when I heard that, because if it weren't such a serious allegation, it would have been laughable, because literally I went to Dr. Ghali and said, I think we need to pull all the media together and help them understand what's going on, give them any facts, answer any questions. And so Dr. Ghali worked hours on a presentation to make sure that he was providing the media with the information that they needed. There was never any mention of Willis Knighton. I don't even know where that would come from. I
don't want to use my own term here, the Willis Knighton paranoia, if you will, certainly, and I think you know, goes beyond Representative Glover. Why is that?
I think it's because Willis Knighton, they do have a large market share. There's no denying that. But I have the benefit of having run the LSU Health Sciences Foundation for 8 years, and so I know that the relationship with Willis Knighton has been there for a long time. They've always been a supporter of the medical school, and we've had multiple faculty members who have done business with Willis Knighton. So this is not anything new.
Including Dr. Ghali. He works for Willis Knighton.
He does not. He has a clinic at Willis Knighton, but he started his first clinic outside the department at Shreveport. And so, again, historical knowledge gives me a little different perspective in that I remember when Dr. Ghali started his own oral and maxillofacial surgeon, and John McDonnell said, the chancellor at the time, I'll bless it, but I don't have any money to give you. So if you can figure this out to start your own department separate from the Department of Surgery, good luck to you. And so Dr. Ghali at that time approached Shreveport, where he had a clinic for a number of years.
Is there a behind the scenes, nobody talks about secret, what did I call it, cage match, loser leave town fight for control of the medical school?
I hope not, because the only people who should be running the medical school are the people who are running it now. So are there other people who might like to take it over? Possibly. But I think if you look at the product that our 3 professional schools have turned out, you know, the School of Allied Health, in addition to the School of Medicine and our graduate school, they've done fantastic. Our community is filled with doctors we've educated. Why would you want somebody else to run the medical school? I don't view that as a topic right now. But if someone has that agenda to try to take over the medical school, they need to move on and do something else, because we're doing a fine job.
What's the answer, Lisa? What is the long-term answer? Everybody that's on either side of this issue wants the med school to stay here, wants the hospital to be operating fine and at a profit. What is the answer?
The answer is we all have to stay focused on the big picture, and that's keeping these tremendous gems and resources in our community and putting pettiness aside, putting disagreements aside. Again, I liken the relationship to University Health with a brother and a sister. Is it all beautiful? No, but at the end of the day, we all need to be focused on making this work. And so for that to happen, it requires both parties, the teaching hospital and the School of Medicine, School of Graduate Studies, and the School of Allied Health Professions having the same goals, and that's for both organizations to thrive. Dr. Ghali is not interested in professional schools that just survive. He wants this to be a showplace. And for that to happen, our missions in terms of quality patient care have to be aligned.
Is Shreveport, and Mr. Glover made some comments regarding funding for New Orleans versus Shreveport. It seems to be out of line. What do we do to make that change? We have to get some South Louisiana lawmakers on board to make sure we're getting an equitable share of state money, because we obviously right now are not, correct?
I'm not going to speak to that portion of it, but again, we all need to be focused on doing the very best we can for Shreveport and for this unbelievable resource that we have here. Because as Dr. Ghali has said numerous times, there are very few cities the size of Shreveport-Bossier that have an academic medical center. So let's make sure that we keep it, but again, not just keep it, but make it the very best that it can be.
There are a couple of pretty powerful local politicians, Senator Greg Tarver, State Representative Cedric Glover, who seem to be at loggerheads, at odds about the future of the school. Erin and I say all the time, how do two guys of goodwill look at the same thing and yet see two completely different things? You're the person in the middle. How are you trying to balance that out? How do you deal with that?
You just keep day in and day out with a consistent message of we have to work together. And that goes to those legislators and all of our legislators. There's a lot of passion in here. People care a lot about this. So, there's a tendency, to really have some strong feelings that come out. And at the end of the day, I'm not going to fault people who are fighting hard for our medical school. I'm just not going to.
Dr. Ghali made mention of, though, we are losing students to other medical schools. We're losing doctors, and that is going to continue. This memorandum of understanding, it's only in place through June, correct?
Right.
How soon do you guys hope to have something new in place that will stabilize everything and we can move forward?
Well, we have to have it in place by 6/30, which is when the current contract expires. And tremendous headway was made in the recently negotiated MOU in putting the school on more stable financial footing. So we hope to, negotiate another contract that is favorable, and that we keep all of the differences out of the media, because that's the challenge. Students and parents were seeing all these negative things being said in the newspaper about losing money, and that's a whole nother discussion as to why so much money was leaving the medical school.
Back to the Tarver-Glover, let's say, conflict for the moment. Meetings planned with either of those two gentlemen upcoming?
Absolutely. My understanding is, and I can't speak with all certainty, but my belief, understanding is that Cedric is coming in to meet with Dr. Ghali this week. There are ongoing meetings with our legislators, and we're going to ask them all, please get on the same page. We need you to be united in order for us to come out with the best possible outcome at the legislative session.